So here we have some of our products that we use for patching walls and taping seams and things like that. So we used the Ready patch for our first application, and we use that because it dries very quickly and it dries hard and the crack won't ever come back. For the second coat, we're going to go with this Drywall spackling, and this is a type of mud that's like a joint compound, and it goes on pink and dries white, and it'll be dry anywhere between 1 and at the most about 5 hours. And for our third coat, what we always like to use is this dust control joint compound that you can pick up also. You can get all these products here at the Home Depot, and this is really ideal for your finish coat. You don't ever want to use a quick drying type of joint compound for a finish coat. We're here in Gallatin, Tennessee today. Got Josh, Brooklyn with me, and what we're going to be looking at in this video is how to fix stress cracks in ceilings and in walls. So as you notice right here, there's actually a bit of a mishap when walking around in the attic. Someone put their foot through the ceiling, so we're going to be fixing these cracks. And I believe the homeowner tried to put up a piece of sheetrock to do the repair himself, but didn't use any mesh tape. So that's the key to fixing stress cracks in houses and things like that. It's real common to run into stress cracks in walls and ceilings in houses that have been built, within just 2 or 3 years. It's a very common occurrence. So first thing you're going to want to do is grab some of this mesh tape here, and you'll want to get a painter's tool called a 5-in-1, and you'll want to dig out the crack and get any of the loose and peeling paint and sheetrock and drywall. Just kind of remove it, go over it like that, and scrape it down nice and flat, and then go over it with your mesh tape. And you can cut the mesh tape with one of these spackling knives, and just cut it, and they're very sharp and you'll cut your tape no problem. So we're going to get started on that. So once you've got your mesh tape down, it should look just like that. And now we're going to put some mud on. So you just want to start with about that much of your Ready patch on the blade, and we're just going to go right there and just spread it on like so. And pretty thin layer so that it'll dry quick. And as I mentioned, this stuff will dry hard, so it's not ever going to crack again. I believe it's a better option than joint compound for your first pass. So here we are, we've got our first coat of mud on. As you can see, that's about what it should look like when you're finished. And I just put a thin coat of this mud because, like I said, it's hard to sand. It's difficult to sand and it dries really hard. So advantage is that it won't crack again, and it's a great way to get through the patch in a timely manner because it'll only take about an hour to dry. It's about 11:30 right now. I just finished putting it on, so we're gonna go to lunch in a little bit, and by the time we get back from lunch, it should be dry and I'll be able to put my second coat on, and we're gonna get through this patch in 1 day. Okay, so we have these right here for patching holes in the wall. What we need to patch are, let's see if I can get them in the camera here. I'll just flip it around like so. So right up there, you'll notice that those were for speakers, and there's a handful of them, 2 right there that we haven't got to yet, and there's a couple over there that we've already applied this. What it is just a metal plate with a sticky mesh taper on top, paper or tape, sorry, on top of it. So all you've got to do is take the plate off, and then this right here has the package that you can get at Sherwin-Williams. They sell a different brand, I'm sure, at the Home Depot, and it's just a metal plate with a mesh tape, and you just put it right over the hole, and then you can just mud over it. So that's what we're going to do now. And again, we're going to use the Ready Patch for our first coat, and we're going to get this thing knocked out in just one day. Okay, so we've got our patches on the walls skimmed with Ready Patch. That's our first coat. We'll take lunch, come back, skim over them again with a second application. This time we're going to use a different product. So our first coat is done and dry, and I just took this sanding block and just gave it a light sanding. You really don't have to do too much sanding on your first coat because it's going to get completely covered anyways with the second application. But I just give it a light sanding, kind of knock the rough edges down, and then I'll put on my second coat. And what we're going to use for the second coat is a product called Drydex. So here's the Drydex. It goes on pink and it's going to dry white. And just grab a bunch of it out like that. And now all we're going to do is skim over this patch. Just like we did on the first coat. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it wider and put it on just a little bit thicker. So you might see that we haven't completely covered our mesh tape. I just put on a thin layer of the Ready Patch and it dried nice and hard, and now I'm going to go over with this pink mud. It's the Drydex, I call it the pink mud, and I'm going to make the patch a little bit wider, put it on a little bit thicker, and we're going to start covering up that mesh tape. And so that's about what your patch should look like when you're done with the second coat. We've got one coat of Ready Patch, one coat of Ready Patch on this where we put the plate in the wall patch. So we'll just give it a very light sand, like so. And that is what the patch should look like after the second coat of Drydex has freshly been applied. So we've put a second coat of mud, and we used what I call the pink mud. It's actually called Drydex, on all of these holes, and we're just waiting for that to dry. We've got the cracks over there taped and 2 coats of mud applied. First we used the Ready Patch, and for the second coat we used Drydex, and as you see it goes on pink and dries white, and we're looking at all of these patches here that are in the process of drying. And as soon as they're dry, be about another hour, we'll go up and finish them off with the dust control joint compound. So for our final coat, we're going to put it on nice and wide, and we're going to use this taping knife. We're going to leave these spackling knives behind for the last coat. And you always want to keep your mud right in the middle of your blade, and we're just going to spread it out like so.
And on your third coat, you want to bring it nice and wide and feather it out on your edges and leave it thick right over the actual crack in the tape that you're patching, and just blend it all in. You want to put it on and go over it again with the blade so that you don't have a ton of sanding to do. You want to put it on nice and smooth so you don't have a ton of real thick rough edges that you're and thick lines that you're gonna have to come and sand and get dust all over the place. Now I'm just gonna put the final coat of mud on our wall patches, and that'll be all she wrote.
Josh is working on his last wall, and I just completed my last patch. So there you have it. 1, 2, 3, 4 holes patched and a bunch of cracks in the ceiling repaired, 3 coats. And that's going to give us just a really nice finish. You'll never know that any of that was there. And a lot of it is just about knowing what products to use. So we used Ready Patch for our first coat. We taped all the seams and cracks with a mesh tape. And then we hit them with the Ready Patch. Just a thin layer, dries nice and hard, dries quick. About an hour and a half later, we came over with the Drydex, the pink mud, second coated it with the Drydex, which also dries very quickly, 3 to 5 hours. Light sanding in between, almost no sanding at all, because we're putting it on thin, is so that the edges are tapered and we're not putting it on too thick to where you have to dust it, and we're completely covering our previous coat, so you're never going to see them anyway. For the third coat, we use the best product on the market as far as I'm concerned for drywall work, sheetrock repair, things like that. And that's the dust control joint compound that you can pick up at the Home Depot. All of these products can be purchased at the Home Depot, and this is really, as far as I'm concerned, the best way to come up with an optimum finish. You never want to go with one of those quick drying muds that you mix in a bucket for your finish coat. It just doesn't, it's not the same quality. And hey, look, we just did this without having to mix anything up on the job. It's all pre-mixed stuff, fast, easy, convenient, optimum finish. There you have it, Mr. Woo's high quality painting of Hendersonville. We'll see ya.